Hello, my name is Scott Perry. I'm a professional magician and this is a magic review. It's a kind of magic. Today we're looking at Triple Helix by John Byng and Snake. So this, if you didn't know, was made very popular before its release, actually a year before its release at the Blackpool Magic Convention. I will insert a little clip. The clip is taken from Chris Ramsey's Blackpool Magic Convention almost a year ago now, and that is what built the hype for this magic trick. Fast forward to a year later, and it's now released under the name of Triple Helix. So the too long didn't read about Triple Helix, in short, is it's quite good for social media magic and magic for camera and presenting to camera, but it's probably not very good for working in the real world. It has many limitations and I wouldn't suggest it as a magic trick or utility for working magicians or even amateur magicians that do the occasional gig. I don't think it's appropriate for that. It is specifically just for film and the occasional performance maybe for people in person, but we'll get into that. That's the too long didn't read. It's really good, has really great visual, but definitely not a working magic trick that you can use at gigs all the time. However, it is something that you can use regularly for online magic shows at the moment for those magicians who are working doing shows over Zoom and video calls. This brings us to what is it? So what is it? I think if you haven't gathered already, it's a multiplying card box principle where the tuck case of the playing cards magically multiplies seemingly from nowhere. That's the premise, and that's as simple as it is, really. That's what Triple Helix is. And we'll move swiftly on to what do you receive? Well, you receive this small but sturdy box, which is good for keeping anything in. It may not be Triple Helix, it may not be the gimmicks that you receive or anything like that. It may just be that you want to keep your made up gimmicks in here, or you want to keep something completely different in here. The point is that the box is very good and very sturdy. You could carry this in your close-up case or your bag of tricks, and it would perfectly protect any kind of magic trick. However, moving on past the box, you receive inside a card that has a QR code, which will, if you point your camera towards the QR code, it will take you directly to the explanation tutorial. And there's also a link on the card that you can type in manually to the URL bar of your computer or mobile device. That takes you to the explanation. You also receive two gimmicks. So these are each gimmick is one card box that produces. So you don't receive a gimmick and an extra gimmick, you receive two gimmicks, which makes up the one effect of the multiplying card boxes. How easy is it to do? How easy is it to perform? Well, I actually don't want to perform it in this video, not only because you've seen Snake performing it at the beginning of the video, and I don't feel like you need to see it again, but also because it's very temperamental until you really get the gimmicks worked in. And Snake does take you through that in the video instructions, but you're going to spend a little bit of time getting used to how to handle the gimmicks and also having to work the gimmicks in so that they work every single time. Because at the beginning they are a little bit stiff, they do need working in, and if you're activating the gimmick and it doesn't quite work properly, then you're left with a very embarrassing situation and a very rubbish magic trick. So while it is very easy to perform, it does require some practice and working in of the gimmicks. It can be a little bit knacky. It's not a really easy thing to perform, but equally the basic handling is very straightforward. It's just a very fiddly setup. The reset time is not what I'd hoped for. So this is one of the reasons why it absolutely isn't a working magician's magic trick. It absolutely cannot be performed, moving from table to table at a dinner or even during a champagne reception or something like this, or even, in your local pub. You just can't reset this instantly. It takes maybe 10 seconds to reset it properly. Depending on your pocket situation. And the reset isn't as instant as I would have liked, and for that reason, it can only really be performed once, and then you would have to leave a situation and be by yourself to reset it. Really, you can't reset it in front of people, which is quite disappointing, but that's the situation. The angles are also not as good as I had hoped. I recently reviewed a very similar principle in terms of multiplying decks called indecisive, which I will leave a link to at the end of this review, but that had much better angles than Triple Helix, and I think that Triple Helix, you can only really perform it based on the angles to people directly in front of you and people to your right. Anyone on the left side of you is going to see what's happening, really. It's not a good situation for the angles of Triple Helix, unfortunately, which again is another reason why, although it has an amazing visual to it, it's definitely not a working magician's magic trick. Speaking of pockets, it doesn't take up much pocket space at all. However, every time you perform the multiplying card boxes from Triple Helix, you are left with a little bit of a mess in your pocket, which is not a good situation to be in. And this is why I mentioned before that you do kind of, to reset it, you do kind of need a moment on your own. It's not possible to reset it on the fly in front of people. So the pocket space, you can perform it in regular trousers or with a hoodie or with a suit jacket or anything like that. It is possible. You do need to put the boxes in your pocket. That has to happen. And you are left with a little bit of a mess that you'll have to clean up. So the pocket space is very minimal, and it is essentially just a card box when it's set up, but it will mess up like an entire pocket after you've performed it. So pocket space is not ideal, but feasible if you're only performing once. And my final thoughts on Triple Helix is that it is an incredible visual. I'm still kind of concerned about doing it on my online shows, but I think that's because I haven't put enough time into working the gimmicks in and making them really soft and supple, and so that they work seamlessly. However, one of my final thoughts on this is that although Snake does take you through a really good instructions process, and even though it's subtitled with English and he's actually speaking in Spanish, it's all quite clear. It's all produced and edited really well. The audio is really clear, and the translations are very accurate. However, what they don't take you through, or what Snake does not take you through on the instructions, is how to make a new Triple Helix gimmick. So one of my main issues with Triple Helix is that if you're carrying it around in your pocket, like most magicians would, then it's going to get dirty and destroyed very quickly. I think probably after buying Triple Helix, you're probably going to ruin your gimmicks to the point where they won't look very good just by practicing the effect. And then to perform it again, because Snake doesn't teach you how to make the actual Triple Helix gimmicks, you're going to have to buy a brand new full price Triple Helix to continue performing it. So I think that it's perhaps good if you have a one-off show, if you're performing online and you don't require to move between people and groups and things like that. But overall, I think these gimmicks, they are just made out of paper. And they are going to get ruined very quickly if you carry them in your pocket, especially if you're carrying them in something like a trouser or pants, if you're American pocket, then they're just going to get destroyed immediately. And you'll have to spend, £30 on a brand new Triple Helix, which is I think unreasonable. They should have taught how to make Triple Helix for those people who want to perform it regularly, rather than relying on the fact that people have to continue buying Triple Helix as a full price product, which again is another one of the frustrations about this product in comparison to effects like indecisive, which I'm going to do a comparison between Triple Helix and indecisive and why you should buy one and why you should buy other soon. But that's my final thoughts on Triple Helix. It's very good visual, incredible visual, in fact, but it does require a little bit of practice. The gimmick requires a lot of working in. By the time you work it in, it will be basically looking quite scruffy, And I also think that, see, this is a made-up gimmick. I think that people would probably in real life be able to tell about this. They would know that there's something fishy if they look too closely, which again just detracts from the effect in real life, and why it just is another minus point to it being a worker, which it isn't, of course. But yes, that's my final thoughts on Triple Helix. It's great for videos, great for social media, but other than that, I wouldn't bother purchasing it. That's the review for today. If you have any thoughts, comments, suggestions, feedback, then stick that in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next review.